They abandoned her out there to perish. Not swiftly, not noisily, just gradually and silently. Like discarding a wounded animal under the scorching sun and waiting for the heat to finish the task. It was July in Mojave, one of those months when the air feels suffocating. Ridgerest lay motionless beneath the kind of sun that cracks aged wood and blinds horses if they gallop too long. Ethan Cole, a 42-year-old man hardened by life, had endured enough torment to recognize when something was deeply wrong. He wasn't soft, not after burying a brother, losing a home to flames, and parting ways with a woman who once made him feel like he belonged. But what he witnessed that day wasn't something a man could easily forget. She stood at the edge of his ranch, near the broken fence he'd neglected for years. Barefoot, her dress soaked up to her knees, a coarse sack tied tightly over her head. No openings, no mercy. Her wrists were bound with rope, the cuts so deep they put barbed wire to shame. Yet she didn't move, didn't flee, didn't scream. She simply waited, as if she already knew no one was coming to save her. Now tell me, have you ever seen something so wrong it makes your chest tighten? Ethan dismounted his horse without a word. He approached her slowly, like a man inching toward an unseen cliff. The girl whispered, her voice so dry it cracked mid-sentence, "Please, remove it." Not loud, not dramatic, just hollow, as if those words were the last thing she possessed. Ethan's hands, rough from years of mending fences and chopping firewood, worked at the knot. It had been tied with cruelty, and it took 3 long minutes to undo. When the sack finally fell, what he saw wasn't cursed. It was the face of 19 years of someone else's brutality. Silent, Ethan didn't ask her name. Didn't ask where she came from or what had happened. He simply helped her onto his horse gently and rode slowly back to his cabin. The journey was quiet, but not awkwardly so. It was the kind of silence that lingers between two people who've seen too much. Back at the ranch, Ethan poured her a tin cup of water. She drank it like it pained her, but she didn't spill a drop. He boiled a potato and gave her the larger half without explanation. He didn't need to. She sat by the fire, wrapped in one of his old blankets, and didn't speak for nearly 20 minutes. Ethan didn't push her. Hell, pushing had never helped anyone open up, not out here. Finally, she looked at him and spoke softly. "They said if a man looked at me too long, he'd be cursed." Ethan didn't blink. "Doesn't sound like a curse. Sounds like cowards." She smiled. A small, crooked one, but it was something. The next morning, Ethan found her hanging his shirts on the line. She wasn't asking to stay, but she wasn't asking to leave either. But in a town like Ridgerest, word spreads faster than a rattlesnake in dry grass. By sundown, the saloon buzzed with rumors. Some claimed she was Comanche. Others whispered she was a witch. One old drunk even swore she was a ghost Ethan had dug up and fallen for. Ethan didn't care what they thought. He had fences to mend, a lame horse to tend to, and now a girl with rope burns who flinched every time he coughed too loudly. But that evening, everything changed. 2 men on horseback rode up the south road. No greetings, no smiles, just cold stares at the house, as if it owed them something. Ethan stepped onto the porch, his shotgun still hanging above the door. Inside, the girl froze, her hands shaking, her eyes wide, as if she recognized the scent of these men without seeing them. They hadn't come to chat, and Ethan knew. If they were here now, more would follow. He didn't recognize the 2 men, but he knew their type. Too polished for ranch hands, too quiet for travelers. They sat on their saddles like men who believed they owned whatever they set their eyes on. The taller one tipped his hat. "Looking for a girl," he said. "Red hair. Where's the sack?" Ethan didn't flinch. "Haven't seen her," the other man chuckled. "She limps a little. Pretty, if you can ignore the silence inside." The girl held her breath, her fingers gripping the edge of the table as if it might carry her away. Ethan stepped off the porch, calm as a summer dawn. "She ain't here." "Right on," the first man smirked. "She ain't yours to keep." That did it. Ethan's voice dropped low, but it hit like a storm. "She ain't anyone's to keep. She's not cattle. She's not property. She's a person." The men didn't argue, not yet. They turned their horses and rode off. But the way they glanced back told Ethan one thing. They weren't done. That night the girl didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just sat by the fire, holding a hawk feather she'd found near the fence that morning. Funny how feathers always appear after storms. She looked at Ethan, her voice barely audible. "They'll come back." "Maybe," he said. The next morning she wasn't hiding. She walked the fence line in Ethan's old boots, her shirt tucked in like she belonged. When he asked if she wanted to stay, she didn't say yes. She just said, "I'm tired of running. Now let me ask you this. How many people do you know who've been treated like dirt and still found the strength to keep going? How many have been called cursed and still had the courage to be kind? Sometimes the strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who don't ask for permission to matter. They just do. If her story struck a chord with you, if it made you think of someone who survived more than they should have had to, go ahead and hit that like button. Maybe even subscribe. Because out here, we don't bury stories in silence. We tell them, and maybe, just maybe, you'll stick around for the next one. They returned on the third night, not the second. 4 of them this time. No lanterns, no greetings. Just the sound of hooves, slow and deliberate, like men unafraid of the dark. Ethan heard them before they reached the gate. He always did. The way a man hears things after years of sleeping with one ear open. He stepped outside with the shotgun. Didn't raise it. Didn't need to. Not yet. A leader, the same man from before, dismounted. Grant Teller. That name had floated around border towns for years. Missing girls, marked cards, unpaid whiskey debts. Grant spat in the dirt. "She belongs to the man who paid," he said. Ethan didn't flinch. "She's not property." Grant stepped forward. "She's a curse inside." She heard every word. But this time, she didn't cower. She didn't hide in corners or behind blankets. She opened the door barefoot, wrapped in Ethan's old quilt, her gaze steady. "You afraid of me?" she asked. The other men shifted, confused. Grant took a half-step back before catching himself. "You beat me," she said. "You sold me. You left me in the dirt, said I'd bring ruin. But look who's shaking now." Ethan raised the shotgun, calm as sunrise. "You'll ride out now. And if I see you near this ranch again, you won't ride out at all." They didn't argue, didn't threaten. They just turned their horses and vanished into the dark. And when they were gone, she sat on the porch, not crying, just breathing like someone who hadn't in a long time. Ethan sat beside her. Didn't say much, didn't need to. After that night, things grew quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from fear, but the kind you earn. The kind that settles in when storms pass and nothing breaks anymore. She didn't hide. She didn't flinch. She walked the fence line at dawn like she owned the sun. And Ethan? He didn't ask questions. He just watched like a man who knew he was seeing something heal. Then one day, a wagon rolled up the trail. Slow, tired. Inside was a woman, her dress faded, her shoes cracked, a child asleep in her lap. She stepped down, looked at the girl and whispered, "I was with you back in Texas before they split us up." The girl didn't cry. She just helped her down, cradled the child in her arms and led them inside. That night, Ethan didn't say much. He just opened the barn door and pointed to the loft. "There's room," and that's how it began. Not with fanfare or speeches, but with people who'd been discarded deciding they weren't done yet. They fixed up the old south room. The new woman stitched quilts from canvas and shirts. The girl planted herbs near the cottonwood. The kids sorted nails by size and sang when they thought no one was listening. By spring, the town stopped whispering. Some folks waved, others dropped off canned peaches. No one asked questions. She never wore the sack again. But one day, she pulled it from the drawer, walked to the edge of the pasture and hung it from the fence. Let the wind take it. Didn't chase it. Didn't look back.